Since my mother passed away, my dad's new crazy girlfriend has been trying everything possible to get rid of me. My mother passed away 5 years ago, and I think about her every day. My dad went through a very strong depression, and I basically had to take care of myself. During the Christmas holidays, my dad told me he had been dating someone for a while. I noticed he was happier, and I guess I was happy for him. I didn't want him to be alone forever, but it felt like my mother was being completely erased. He never wanted to talk about her, and he got rid of all the photos she was in. He said his girlfriend would spend Christmas with us and then move into our house. I wasn't happy at all. I didn't even know her, but I didn't say anything. I met her on Christmas, and usually, my dad and I put the star on the tree. That day, we put the star on the tree and watched The Grinch. It was our tradition, and we kept it even when we were mourning my mother. It's the only tradition from when she was with us that we really kept. When his girlfriend came, he put the star on with her while I was in the bathroom. Also, we didn't watch The Grinch because she didn't like it. I know I sound spoiled and childish, but I was so angry. We had been doing this my whole life, and she just came and destroyed it. All night she didn't even bother to get to know me. She was all over my dad and practically ignored me. I told my dad how upset I was about our tradition, and he told me I needed to grow up and that things change. I didn't like her because she gave me a bad feeling, so I never got close to her. She complained to my dad about it, and he got mad at me for not making her feel welcome. I felt bad because she makes my dad very happy, so I tried to be nicer to her. In front of my dad, she was nice to me, but when we were alone, she ignored me or spoke to me with an attitude. She even told me I was a brat and made my dad's life harder. I told my dad, but he didn't believe me and yelled at me for trying to sabotage their relationship. He said I wanted him to die alone and sad and that I was selfish. I was so shocked because none of that is true. My dad basically treated me like I didn't exist at all after that. I felt like when my mother died, completely alone. I stayed up very late one night because I just couldn't sleep and wanted to steal a midnight snack. The girlfriend was in the kitchen on a video call, so I decided to be curious and listen. She was talking about my dad and how much she loved him. Then she said he had this stupid daughter and wondered if it was too late for adoption. She and her friend laughed about it. She said I was a little bitch and that she hated me. Her friend then mentioned something about boarding schools or military schools, but I left, so I didn't hear the rest. I was so exhausted from crying that I actually slept. I didn't tell my dad and don't even know if I should since he probably won't believe me. I really miss my mom. I want to go live with my grandparents, my mother's parents now, but I don't want my dad to think I'm leaving him. What do I do? Can I do something? How do I get my dad to listen to me? Would it be wrong if I left? Hello, since my last post, I talked to my grandparents and told them everything. I asked if I could stay with them if I wanted to, and they agreed. Then I talked to my dad again and tried to tell him how I felt and what I had heard. I didn't want to record or film because I knew he would get mad about it and not listen. He didn't believe me again and thought I was jealous of having to share him with someone else. I got mad and told him I was leaving so he could live happily ever after without the burden of having me around. He seemed surprised but didn't say anything. I had already packed my bags and taken some things to my grandparents' house. My dad didn't talk to me for the rest of the day. My grandpa picked me up, and I've been there since. I haven't been home and haven't heard from my dad. My grandparents told me they would take care of my dad, and I shouldn't be the one to do it. I'm upset because my dad hasn't called or texted to see if I'm okay. At the same time, I feel much better being with my grandparents. My grandma is probably the sweetest person in the world, and my grandpa is a bit gruff but is actually a softie. My dad came to visit me at my grandparents' house to talk to me. He brought his girlfriend with him. He said that he and his girlfriend had been talking and decided that the best thing was for me to stay here. My dad said I could go clean my room completely, and he would help me. He also said that after picking up my things, we should take a break from each other and re-evaluate things in a few months or however long it takes. His girlfriend then said something about how she would take care of my dad for me. In a few days, I'll go with my grandparents to pick up my things. I'll also get the important documents some of you mentioned. It doesn't seem like I'll be going back home soon. I guess now I have a new home. To be honest, I've been feeling pretty bad about some of the comments, specifically the one saying I probably remind my dad of my mom, and that's why he's like this with me. He got rid of everything that had to do with my mom, and I was the last piece of her, so it makes sense that he doesn't want me anymore. I really wish she was still here. I think he wants to start over, and I wasn't part of that plan. So I guess that's it. Thanks for all the kind comments. Story 2. The title sounds bad, I know. This has been an ongoing argument between my partner and me for almost 6 months. I feel like it will never end. Context: I'm a 23-year-old woman with fair skin and naturally very dark body hair, making maintenance a real pain. I shave my legs, and 2 days later, I have dark stubble that I can't shave again for about 1.5 weeks without causing painful skin irritation. It's something that's bothered me for a long time since it takes away a lot of freedom during warmer seasons, and I have to choose which events I can show my legs. This year, I was invited to go with my partner, 28M, to his family's Christmas lunch, which I was quite excited about. A few days before the lunch, my partner and I were also invited to a New Year's Eve pool party at his friend's house, Southern Hemisphere, in case anyone's confused. Of course, this filled me with dread because I knew my legs would look terrible in a swimsuit by then. I decided to go to both events and found a beautiful summer maxi dress to wear on New Year's Day. I thought I'd relax by the pool on a sun lounger and also help the host organize the barbecue lunch. After lunch, I was relaxing with some of the other women while our partners played in the pool, doing dives. My friend's partner, 25M, asked why I wasn't swimming, and I told him I just didn't feel like it that day and preferred to rest in the shade. At that moment, my partner came out of the pool, and I assumed he was going to jump back in as usual. Instead, he walked over to me, lifted the bottom of my dress, revealing my legs, and exclaimed, "She's not swimming today because she's as hairy as a damn bear." I grabbed my dress and pulled it down again, quite embarrassed, and gave him a very angry look. There were some laughs, but mostly awkward silence. I was mortified. He knows how self-conscious I am about this. In my anger, I responded and said, "Maybe we can transplant some of my leg hair to that nice bald spot you have." This was also met with some laughs, followed by even more awkward silence. My partner walked away from the pool and went inside to change. He put on his dry clothes and came out saying we were leaving. I felt really bad, especially for the hosts, so I apologized to them and said they could keep the salad bowls I brought. My partner and I had never talked about his hair loss before. When I said this, I knew it probably bothered him since I had found photos on his phone of him taking pictures of the top of his head where the hair loss had started. I just felt it was hypocritical that he could create this whole situation, and my insecurity wasn't a boundary, but his was. I know I didn't handle the situation well. Update: for everyone, I sat him down when we both finished work and came home a little over an hour ago. It was a very short conversation. I started the conversation by saying I'd like to clear the air and resentment in the relationship. His response was, "Are you finally going to apologize?" I almost died inside. I asked why I should apologize, and he said for the comments I made about his hair at the New Year's party. I then suggested that maybe we should apologize in the order of events, so he should go first. He said he wouldn't apologize after what I said because I crossed the line. I asked about him crossing the line with my boundaries and humiliating me. He said it wasn't the same because I could have shaved and been done with it, while his situation could be permanent. I said my situation would have remained permanent if I hadn't done something about it. Then he went silent and started shutting down, saying he didn't want to talk. I told him I didn't want his company if he couldn't have an adult and open conversation with me. He left. I'm leaving him tomorrow. I didn't sign up for this. I never wanted this adult baby. Sorry.